my little yarnivores. Fiber Spider back again, and we are going to continue on with our crochet along. Yes, we are. And so we are on the third triangle of this section. So just like before, we're going to start with the gray, go into the white, and then into the purple. And the gray is going to be 4 rows total. So let's get into it, shall we? All right. Oh, excusez-moi. All right, so we find our center hole. We go over 3 to the right and insert our hook like so. And we begin. And I do apologize from the get-go for my delay in continuing part 3. I've been so busy on a whole bunch of works in progress, and I'm sure that most of you can relate. Yes, we're good at that, aren't we? All right, so we pull the yarn through, we do a chain up of 1, then a single crochet into that same stitch, like so. Gotta have that first anchor. All right. And then into that center space, we do our first cluster. Now, I didn't want to leave you guys hanging because I started part 3 and I aim to finish it. So we have our first cluster, then we chain 2, do another cluster in that same space. 2 and 3. All right. All right, so then to finish that off, we chain 1 and then skip to the third stitch. That's 1, 2, and 3. So into here, we do a slip stitch, and then we chain 2, 1, 2, and then we skip to the next third stitch. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So it's the middle. Here we are. And we do a single crochet stitch, like so. And then we turn our work and do the second row. Going to be a little tricky to keep turning my work because this piece just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And with the way I have my camera set up, it's a little tricky. But we shall forge ahead, as always. All right, so into this space down in here, we do our next 2 double crochets. There, and there. All right. And then we chain 1, and then do our 2 clusters in here, separated by a chain 2 space. And I must say that the reception of this series is, to me, absolutely beautiful and mind-boggling at the same time. I'm so delighted that so many of you have been finding this series to be helpful, because I really wanted to bring clarity to this particular pattern, and I feel that this really is doing the trick. All right, so we have our 2 clusters separated by a chain 2 space, chain 1, and then into that space down there, we do our last cluster of the row. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Here we are, chain 1. And then again, we have to find the third stitch. So that would be 1, 2, and 3. We do our slip stitch. Here we are. And we want to do another 2 more rows. So continuing right along, we do a chain 2, find the third again, so that's 1, 2, and 3, so it's the first of that cluster. We do a single crochet stitch, and then we turn our work once more. All right. And then we finish the cluster with 2 double crochets into that space down in there. And 2. There we are. Chain 1. And then we continue doing our clusters as per usual. So, going up to here. Now, I'm sure that many of you, if you've been following along with this series, by this point, you know perfectly well how to keep going. But I've also received quite a few comments that you guys actually like my chatter. That kind of surprised me. Because, well, I'm just sort of talking to myself. I mean, granted, I'm talking to you, but since you're not physically in the room with me, it's sort of like talking to myself for hours on end. And in certain polite societies, that could be construed as insanity. Well, I guess you have to be to do this. So at any rate, we did our 1 cluster, and then we do 2 chains, and then we do our 2nd cluster. But I rather enjoy this. I find that it's cathartic on a number of levels. Not to mention the fact that, of course, they have actually done studies that crocheting is very therapeutic, and I'm a big believer in that. All right, so we're going to continue our clusters on the way down. That it helps reduce stress and alleviate some of the symptoms of depression. And for me also, it's really great as far as giving me a sense of self-worth, something that I can do. All right, so then we go down into that space down in there, finishing up our last cluster of the row. And also, I often jokingly, half not jokingly say, well, it's cheaper than therapy. And yes, crocheting certainly is. All right, so again, we have to find the third. So we went into this one. So that's 1, 2, and 3. So that's the first down into here. We do a slip stitch. Let me just make sure that's correct. Yes, good, okay. Slip stitch into the first of that cluster with a slip stitch, like so. And then we need to do 1 more row to complete our 4. So we need to again do a chaining up of 2. And then we have to go into the third. This time it's into the chain stitch because 1, 2, and 3. So into that chain stitch that we did. There we are. And we're doing a single crochet into that stitch. There we are. And then one last time, we turn our work for the gray. All right. And then we finish up the cluster by going down below with 2 more clusters. There we are. And then we continue along the sides just as we have always done. Chain 1, and another cluster. Oh, come on now. There we go. Today, I don't know about for you guys, but today here where I am, it was an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous day. Wasn't too hot, not too cold. The sun was finally shining once more. Absolutely beautiful. There we are. So we need to do another cluster because we've reached the corner. So it's a chain 2. And we do our second cluster into that same space. There we are. And then continue down the other side. There we are. All right, and then just a few more. And then we'll be done with the gray. Oops. Oop. There we go. Then one more cluster. Chain 1, and then go into that bottom space down into there. There we go. Chain 1, and then go into the third once more. So that's, of course, the chain stitch on this side. So always, it's a little bit tricky, but with a little bit of patience, a little bit of perseverance, we got it. All right, and that is a slip stitch. There we go. So I'm going to cut the yarn, and we are going to start with the next color. All right then. All right, so I've snipped my end, pulled my loop through, and so we're going to flip our work. And we're going to start in with the white yarn this time. All right. Sorry for the shaky camera work. All right. So again, going into the third, so that would be the third double crochet of this cluster. There we go. Pull up a loop, do a chain 1, and a single crochet into that same stitch, like so. All right, and then making sure that the gray is just a little bit taut, we go into this space down in here, and we do our first cluster. Also, another thing, as of late, I have been receiving tons of requests for a pattern. Well, that is to say, a written pattern for this project. Well, I don't have one, and the reason why is because I think I've said this before, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate, and it's fine. The reason why is because the initial starting square can be different sizes. You know, the one that I chose, well, that's what I went for. You can have smaller, bigger, what have you. You know, I mean, also, you don't have to change colors at all for the triangles. You could do the triangles in solid colors. That is, of course, completely up to you. But the main gist and crucial point is the beginning center square. You could make it different sizes. Therefore, if you did, it would throw off, the count of how many rows you would need for your triangles. And I do, by all means, encourage all of you to experiment and to think outside of the box and, you know, not just do my thing, but do your own thing, you know? You're sentient beings, right? I'm not a dictator. All right, so we reached that corner, so we have to do another cluster into that space. So it's not so much that I don't care to do it. I just think that it would be doing you a disservice. And that's also why I'm putting so much time and so much effort as it is into doing this crochet along so that you can follow along. There we are. Besides, gives us a chance to sit and, in a sense, chat. There we are. And just going to continue along this side. And for the white, we are going to do a total of 3 rows. You can, of course, do your own thing, but this is my thing, so take it for what you will. There we go. Also, I think it was in a previous video I was talking about how I had recently seen a movie called The Girl with All the Gifts, and I decided to start reading the book because I liked the movie so much. And so far the book is quite an interesting and fair adaptation. Well, I mean, sorry, the movie that I've seen is a good adaptation from the book that I am now reading. It's very infrequent that that is the case, but no, I'm quite pleased. All right, so we're ending this with a chain 1 and skip over to the third. So that would be 1, 2, and 3. So the third, there we are, with a slip stitch, chaining of 2. Find the third again. So that would be 1, 2, and 3. That would be the middle one with a single crochet. There we are. And then we turn our work. All right. And so I've been reading that, and I've been rereading the first of the Lord of the Rings books, and also reading Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I can never do just one thing at a time. Oh no. Alright, so I'm going to go into this space here with our next 2 double crochets to finish off the cluster. And then continue on with our clusters along the side. Yeah, that is something that I have noticed about myself over the years, that yes, it is very difficult for me to not multitask. To read just one book at a time, or to do one project at a time. That concept seems almost alien to me, I'm afraid. All right. So on the one hand, it takes me longer to actually get projects and the reading of books done, but I'm never bored. Oh no. Give me a ball of yarn and a book, and I can keep myself happy and occupied indefinitely. There we are. Yes, and at the time of this recording, I still have yet to finish my narration of Alice in Wonderland, but I have had some ideas, and I have had some wonderful suggestions from viewers. One of them is very much what I am actually thinking, which is doing a reading of The Wind in the Willows, one of my all-time favorites. I've read it numerous times on my own, and I would love to share it with all of you. Another one that I was thinking about just recently is doing a narration of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Alright, so we have to do our chain 2 and another cluster in there. So that was, of course, yet another idea of a narration. I If only there were more hours in the day, right? Alright, so we continue on with our clusters down this side. But it's all fun. And one thing about this channel is that it certainly keeps me on my toes. Never a dull moment and always something to do. So when I hear people use the horrid expression, "I'm bored," oh gosh, I don't know whether I want to laugh or cry. There's always something to do, my dears, always. You know, if it's not this, hey, be creative, find something. You can do it. You know, not to mention, I just recently did a tutorial on what I call the cloister shell shawl. Say that 5 times fast. And absolutely delighted with the results and the response that I've gotten from that. Absolutely. You guys are so... Oh, you guys are so full of surprises. I absolutely love it. You guys are the best with your really warm, kind remarks and comments and everything. It always makes my day. Alright, so we need to find the third. So that would be 1, 2, and 3. That's the middle with a slip stitch. Alright, and we just need to do one more row with the white. So that's 1 and 2. Find the third. So that's 1, 2, and 3 with a single crochet stitch. And then we turn our work. There we go. There. And then we finish this cluster with 2 more doubles. Now, aside from that, I also recently finished another shawl that I would very much like to do a tutorial for. And I also recently finished, today actually, making my very first poncho. Very simple, yet very easy, and a lot of fun. So that's something else that I have planned. And for those of you that knit as well, I'm currently working on 2 different shawls that are knitted. Working on both of those at the same time. Like I said, never a moment's rest. There we go. It's sort of like that song by Devo. Whip it good. Into shape. Whip it. And that's what I have. A lot of WIPs, a lot of whips, works in progress. There we are. All right, so let me just scooch my piece over a little bit. There we go. And also, I'm very much interested to hear about what you guys are currently working on. You know, always looking to see what you guys are doing because, I don't know, inspiration begets inspiration. That's how I see it. And for those of you that have shared on my Facebook page, which is Fiber Spider, it is a community page, and my little crocheted icon face that I have here, I also have there. And so you can post pictures of what you're doing, you can ask me questions, you know, really whatever you like. And for those of you that have posted pictures, wow. Seriously, wow. Your color choices, The neatness of your stitches, absolutely beautiful. I'm very impressed, because what may not seem offhand something that I would offhand do as far as the choice of colors, really quite striking. And that's exactly what I'm talking about as far as inspiration begets inspiration. What you may not think of offhand at first, all of a sudden you're like, wow, that color combination really makes it pop, And so to see your work, gives me a new perspective and a new appreciation for a pattern that this is only the second time that I've done it. And, I'm I can't say speechless because I'm going to keep talking, but it really gets me, in such a very good way. And I really must say that. So if, of course, any of you would like to post your own pictures of your work, hey, I would love to see what you're doing. And by all means, I encourage you to share, whether it's, this project here or another project that you're working on that's unrelated. Hey, it's all good, I absolutely love it. All right, so we need to get into the third stitch again. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Yes, okay, so that's the first cluster of that the first stitch of that cluster. We're doing a slip stitch, like so. All right, and that is the end of the white yarn. Snip and pull. All right, so on to the purple. All right, so I pulled my tail through, and now we turn our work, and we start in on the last color. All right, so we've got our purple here. Here we go. Alrighty, so we went into the stitch here, so that's 1, 2, and 3. So we have to go into the chain stitch again. There we are. Always be sure to get both loops there. Alright, so we pull up a loop, chain 1, and single crochet into that same stitch. Oops. There we go. Pull that a little tight, pull the white, and do our cluster. Alrighty. There we are. And then we're going to continue on our merry way. Going all the way up and down and so on and so forth. Oh, I beg your pardon. So yeah, I mean, if any of you would like to share, whether it's a blanket or a scarf or a hat or a stuffed animal or anything really, would love to see. Not just that, but also, I really feel that, as I've always said, knowledge is power, but sharing is caring. Always. Definitely and absolutely. And I do believe that it's by no means all about the channel. Oh, no. It's about the sharing of ideas. I mean, the cloister shell shawl that I did, one of my viewers very kindly informed me that it had different names and, so on and so forth. And I did not even know, you know. And it's that sharing of knowledge, and the fact that we are from all walks of life and we are from all different parts of the world. And now, compared to, say, 10, 15 years ago, we have the capability of communicating to each other and sharing with each other like no other time ever before. And that is, to me, a beautiful thing. And the internet can be used for posting, epic fail videos on YouTube, or, pictures of cats doing silly things, or it could be used to share knowledge. There's nothing wrong with the internet being used for, forms of entertainment, but for me, it's about sharing, creativity, and I think that that's an important thing that a lot of people unfortunately overlook. All right, so going along, we've got our 2 in the top here. All right. There we go. So I think that, the internet, YouTube, it's a great, great resource and a great tool if used in a good way. And that's what I try to do. I try to use it in a good way to help others. And I would like very much to see others do likewise. And that's part of what I think that, would be nice as far as the Facebook page. Not just about the channel, but, a forum, really, If somebody's having a, bit of difficulty with a pattern, and if I am quite honestly at a loss, perhaps one of you might be able to know the solution to the problem. Because as I've said before, and I will say it again, now and probably in the future, I'm not an expert. I am an avid enthusiast, and I am experienced, but, it's us collectively. That's the strength. It's not just me, it's we. And it's not just the World Wide Web, and it's not just Fiber Spider's web, but it's a place where we can all get together and we can, help each other. Why not? All right. So we go into here with the final cluster of the row. There we are. So am I rambling enough for you? Am I sounding silly? There we go. We got our chain 1. And then we have to find the 3rd stitch once again. So that would be the chain stitch once more. So that's 1, 2, and 3. All right. Oh, this is so much fun to get into here, isn't it? There we go. All right. So we do our slip stitch. Would help if I got all the plies. There we go. We chain 2. And then we go into the 3rd. So that's this one right here, with a single crochet stitch, and then we turn our work. All right. All right. So going to continue and finish this cluster with 2 down below. Oops. There we are. and also not just my Facebook page, but also, as I've said before, I am also on Instagram, also under Fiber Spider, and that too is a great way to not just share with me, but also to share with all of Instagram as well, all of your beautiful creations. And I've seen quite a bit of work from quite a few of you, and I am thoroughly impressed. And I just love seeing your progress. By all means. In a way, it sort of makes me feel like, hey, I'm making a difference. I'm doing something good. Let me tell you, some days, it's hard to convince myself to get out of bed, but when I see what I'm helping you guys to do, it makes it all worthwhile. There we go. Getting a little tangled on my piece here, excuse me. There we go, and we just continue right along. Oh, excuse me. Oh, come on. I know I can do this. I've been doing this. Come on. There we go. Sometimes the yarn has a bit of a mind of its own. It does not wish to cooperate. But I'm sure that plenty of you know all about that. There we go. Now, lately, I don't know why I've been thinking about this. But for whatever reason I have. Alright, so we reached the corner, so we do our chain 2 and a second cluster. But yeah, when I was a child, I had a very active imagination. And not that far from where I lived, there was a firehouse. And it was well within the distance of being able to hear the siren going off whenever there was a fire in the area or what have you. And every time the siren went off, this is just something I noticed, that it seemed that every time the siren went off, I would be in my room and I would see the sun. It would begin to fade a little bit. And it would sort of fade in and out and in and out. And the light would sort of undulate, if you will. And I honestly, at that point, when I was a small child, I actually believed that the siren affected the sun. Of course, later I realized, no, it's just the sun being obscured by the clouds. But for a little bit of time, I don't know, it's just one of those things where now you can shake your head and say, yep, I was a funny little kid. I don't know, it's just one of those weird sort of anecdotes. Makes you think. Or it probably makes you think that I've gone completely batty, but no, in a sense it makes you think, what it is to be a kid again. When things that don't make sense necessarily, you make sense of them. Okay, almost done with this row. think in part it's one of the reasons why I like doing this as much as I do, because in a world that really doesn't make a lot of sense a lot of the time, doing my stitching the way that I do, to me, it makes sense. And I guess it helps me get through. Alright, so we need to find the third once again. So that would be the third stitch of this cluster. Like so. There we are. Alright, and then, yes, we need to do total of 2 more rows. So we need to doing a chaining up of 2. And then going into the third, 1, 2, and 3. So that's the middle stitch with a single, with a single crochet. There we are. And then we need to backtrack. So we're turning our work. And fixing our piece in front of the camera, all nice and spiffy. And then we're going to do our next 2 clusters into that space down below. There we are. Chain 1. All right. Before you know it, this triangle will be done. So this row and then the next. And a little bit of obla-dee, obla-da. Life goes on. All right. There we are. Oh, come now. So, given that I just poured out my heart about a odd little childhood anecdote, now I would like, if I may, to hear one of yours. Think that would be interesting. You know, something perhaps unusual that you may have thought as a child that now seems unusual, but back then, oh no, it was perfectly rational. So, yeah, in the comments section below, I'd like to hear something. Doesn't have to be too personal, doesn't have to be too poignant, but just a little something you remember. You know, or, you know, maybe an old wives' tale that you took rather literally. You know, my grandmother, she used to say when either my brother or I, if we got, a big bump or a bruise or something like that from roughhousing or falling out of a tree or whatever, as boys do. Some sort of, scraped knee or whatever, she would always say, it'll be a pig's foot in the morning. And I have no idea where that came from. It'll be a pig's foot in the morning. I have no idea. But that was one of her expressions. All right, so we have our 2 clusters. Doing very nicely. And of course, when you have a scraped knee and you're crying and the antiseptic is stinging and so forth, and you have somebody telling you it'll be a pig's foot in the morning. All right, so not only do you have a scraped knee and you're in pain, but you also have somebody telling you that you're going to, you know, not have a scraped knee in the morning. Oh no, it'll be a pig's foot. Like, that's an improvement. Oh great, more anxiety. I don't know where these expressions come from sometimes, but it is fascinating to think. You know, it's like, all right, what is the origination of that one? All right. Oh, we're flying along here. Loving this. All right. Okay. So yeah, if any of you would like to share one of your early, interesting, yet, for lack of a better word, odd childhood memories, hey, let's dish. Alright, we're almost there. Oh. Chain one, and then into this space down in here. Oops. Come now. There we are. And almost done with this row. All right. Chaining one. And then, that's 1, 2, and 3 with a slip stitch. All right. Okay. All right, so for the last row, because we really can't go any further up, we're going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we turn our work for the last time on this triangle. All right. And then we do our second 2 down into here, as always. There we go. And we are almost there. Now, of course, by all means, I can continue doing this series, you know, at the very least, finishing up part 3, so that you can see the 4th triangle and the border around the whole thing. I can very well do that. There's no problem with that. If you guys would like it. My rambling has either entertained you or bored you beyond belief and you stopped watching, and, well, I wouldn't know because I don't see what you're doing, I mean, if you would like for me to continue, I shall. I have no qualms with that. But I will not know whether or not to continue on if I don't hear from you guys. So please, by all means, not just childhood anecdotes, but please give me your feedback so that I know whether or not you guys think that I should keep doing this crochet along. I'm having fun with it, and I hope you guys are too. There we go. Oh, we're so close. Like hazelnut coffee, I can almost taste it. we reached our corner. So that's 3 doubles, a chain 2, and 3 doubles. Do. And I have to turn my work. Well, not turn my work, but adjust my work, because this piece is getting quite big and unruly, but I'm tenacious, as you all know. There we are. Yes, also, aside from the actual books and things as far as narrations, I have done some Robert Frost, which a lot of you really seem to like. I was thinking also perhaps of doing some Walt Whitman, some Emily Dickinson. I don't know. I'm always milling about ideas, and I'm sure that I've said some of them before, but, always looking for ideas. I just must stress and emphasize that whatever it is that I am to read, at least for the channel, it has to be classic. It has to be old. It has to be public domain. I simply can't read anything contemporary for the channel because of copyright rules, because the last thing I want to do is overstep my bounds and commit any sort of infringement. Not something I wish to do. For one thing, it's not right, and for another thing, I can get flagged, and I do not wish to have that happen, because then I wouldn't be able to continue doing what it is that I do for you guys. So, something old, something classic, one of the oldies but goodies. So, keep those suggestions coming, because I love hearing from you guys. And we are almost finished with this triangle, my dears. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Oh, this is so much fun. Oh, so gratifying. All right. And we have reached the end of... Woo. Oh, yeah, I spoke too soon. Oh, come now. It's always when you end up getting a little too cocky and a little too sure of yourself that you end up splitting the yarn, right? All right, let's try this again. Take 2. There we go. One more. Chain 1. There we are. And then, as we have done already, we go into the top stitch there, and we do a slip stitch. Ta-da! Oh, I love it. All right, and then we pull our yarn through, and we are good for another triangle finished. And then, of course, we can push our yarn to the back, right there, and right there. And we are making some really lovely progress. Just have one more triangle to do. And yes, this is my Egg Row and Poe book that I use to keep my tripod on. So at any rate, I really hope, as always, that you enjoyed this video and that you're having fun with your very own creation. And I hope that you followed along with me because I do enjoy this oh so much, as always. And so listen, if you'd like me to continue this series, by all means, let me know. If you have any questions, comments, what have you, please leave them down in the comment section down below. If you haven't done so, excuse me, if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button because I try to post videos as often as I can because I love doing it oh so much. So until next time, stay inspired, stay caffeinated, and above all, stay stitching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.